their birthday today. So Evelyn in our makeup department, who puts powder on our face and makes sure that our foreheads and our noses don't shine. So happy birthday to you, Evelyn. And then our youngest intern, she just turned 19 today. Yes, so in the last years of her teens, OBK, aka Ajapoma, aka Dorothy, aka youngest intern on the GTV Breakfast Show. So of that school, Osajofu, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, for that great vision. It's 7:45. Founder of the Worldwide Miracle Outreach, and Sheikh Arimiao Shaibu is the spokesperson for the National Chief Imam of Ghana. Salam alaikum, shalom. Both of you.
Alaikum salam and shalom.
How are we, sir?
Doing very well.
Rev, how are you?
God is good.
All the time. Rev, it's been a while. What's on your mind this morning?
Well,
Sheikh Amir.
Last week I was part of the Peace Council, a program where we engaged with the politicians and the security services, police particularly. Yeah, and one of the subjects that we reflected on has to do with this hate speech.
Good.
Yeah, hate speech. And it's something that we were so serious about, because from the way that politicians speak on the media and psychologically prepare their grassroots for action is what we were most concerned about. And how we also personalize issues to defame, denigrate, take away somebody's hard-won reputation. Even when we disagree, we thought that it was something that should not be part of our political culture. Yeah. We want our politicians to understand that even as you campaign, you need a peaceful country to govern.
Yeah.
We don't want you to divide this country through your campaign because of your penchant for power. You divide our country, set us apart, set us against each other, only to win election and to come to us with the slogan, one nation, one people, one destiny. You just wanted the power, now you have it. When you wanted it, all that you can do is to divide us, set us against each other. And then when you receive it, having finished, now you sing the slogan, one nation, one people, and one. I think it's contradictory.
Yeah.
So let's engage in a more purposeful, more meaningful campaigns. In fact, even those who are even doing their primaries, we are all target of this message. Then beyond that, as the 2024 election approaches, we don't want a situation where anytime election approaching, we are sitting on tentacle hooks. The whole country becomes so tensed.
Musicians start composing peace songs.
Yeah, I mean, in all the churches and the mosques that become our subject.
Yeah.
Why do we do this to ourselves? Yeah. So winning power is not the end of the world, and losing power is not the end of the world. And I think that there must be good reasons why we fight for power. Power is for service, for sacrifice. We invest all that we have. And I want to still advise politicians that please do politics where you want to leave certain heritage. You want to bequeath something for the future. Okay. It is not for yourself alone. Come into politics as somebody who has been successful and you just want to leave a name. Don't see the politics as a field, a gold mine. That is the quickest way by which when you come into our minds. And we have seen signs of that in our policy. And that's what accounts for the current state. So it's one of the things that has bothered my mind. And
awesome. Great stuff. And it's just interesting that Sheikh is saying this because back in February, the Peace Council actually launched guidelines on hate speech. Yeah. So it's good that the message is being reinforced. And for those of you who don't know, well, hate speech is speech that is degrading, that is threatening, harassing, or stigmatizing, which affects an individual or a group's dignity, reputation, and status in society. So it could be verbal, it could be visual, and it just promotes negative feelings, negative attitudes, negative perceptions, focusing on things like ethnicity or race or color or religion, language, gender, disability, sexual orientation, age, other opinions. So we just do not want hate speech in the system. Okay, let's try and temper it. And so it's good that you reinforce this again. Thank you so much, Sheikh. All righty. Reverend, what's on your mind this morning?
No. Sheikh couldn't have given me a better foundation to what I was about to talk today. I've been very sad over the week. And I just came from the UK. I spent some time in Isle of Man. And on my way from UK, conversations that happened made me realize that some of us have made a lot of noise about hate speech. We've made a lot of noise about LGBT. We've made a lot of noise about murders. But we have lost sight of one significant thing that is undermining Ghana as one of the peace haven. And that is the abolition of death penalty. That we've forgotten, a lot of people have lost sight of the capital punishment. And from where I sit as a man of God, and I know Sheikh will agree with me, well, we've spoken about this before, but we just speculate. Nobody has a right to take life. It's only God who gives life. And in most cases, people who are put on a death toll might be very innocent. And once you have taken away that life, you cannot restore it again. But I think the Bible that I read, and of course the Quran that Sheikh reads, has place for repentance. And sometimes, if we don't take care, we send a very wrong signal. I must commend the British, and of course, having stayed in Britain for a very long time, there's no gainsaying that the British High Commissioner and those are the High Commission, most of them are my friends. As we speak together as a team, I think that we want to commend them. I know America still goes through that. But when we look at the Sheikh and CAF, it is only the deprived people that go through that in America. And so this is very inhuman. And I think it's about time we come out of the academic discourse when it comes to these topics. Let's break it down for the commoner to understand that when somebody commits a crime in Ghana and they go to court and they are sentenced to death, it means they are supposed to be killed and their life are being taken away. I've had a chance to visit a few people in prison who are on death sentence and they look like animals. And this is a very sad thing. So I think that let's Ghana gain back its place as one of the safe haven that believe in the dignity of human beings. And let us get to that place where we can find another way of at least let people go into certain punishment without necessarily killing them. Because once you've killed a person, and later on you get to know what the real source is, and it's the innocent person you've killed, you've lost it. Another thing I want to say is that as much as we look at it legally, culturally, and also want to also retaliate, let us not forget that we serve a God of pardon. And I would think that it is not a good thing for President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. When I say this with a very heavy heart, President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo is known to be a human rights activist. And of course, when we are talking about human rights, for me, this is very paramount to see that human beings' life should not be taken away. And Sheikh, I don't know where you stand with this, but for me, I think we should be able to look at it again. At Parliament, I think in 2012, somewhere thereabout, they started because of the Constitutional Review Committee, and they went through it, but it's been sluggish, and it's come back to Parliament again. Let all our parliamentarians stand to it. Just the way I saw a unanimous move by 275 people last week.
Yes.
Let me see that one too in abolition of death penalty, capital punishment. I say no to it, and let us have sympathy for certain people who mistakenly might have been found wanting by that law.
But Reverend, these are fine arguments, but then there are also people who also argue that there are three reasons why you should keep the death penalty. It's a deterrence for serious crimes, because if you know at the back of your mind that you commit a serious crime and you risk your life being taken away, you may not want to engage in serious crime. So there's a deterrence factor. There's also the argument of retribution and justice. Say you've killed a family member of mine, it is only and you've been found guilty, you did it. So why don't they take your life? Because you've caused my family pain. And so you should also suffer, so that there's retribution and there's some form of justice. And then the third argument also could be that it saves money. I mean, you get rid of the most dangerous criminals in society, and you don't have to be feeding them for 30, 40 years on death row. Those are some
But that
arguments.
is where the risk is. That's where the risk comes in, where you end up killing an innocent person.
How about if the person is guilty? He's been found beyond reasonable doubt that he committed an heinous crime.
Even people who have committed, you see, the olden days, they said an eye for an eye. But the God that I serve, Jesus Christ, said we should forgive. Some people, you'll be surprised after they've gone through that. And I know people that have gone through issues like that, that when they were pardoned, they changed and they became good-lived. If you go to even some of the prisons and you see certain people on life prison and life death row, and you see their way of life, you realize that they've genuinely repented. And don't forget that 2 mistakes doesn't make correction. I am looking at it as a reputation. What that Amnesty International thinks of Ghana, and a lot of human beings that have looked at us as a people of Ghana knows that we are people of peace. And like I already said, look at from Kwame Nkrumah's time until Nana Addo's time today. There are men who really believe in peace, and I think we should not throw that away. I would really urge that our parliamentarians really look at that law again.
I know Francis Xavier Susu is really pushing hard to get the capital punishment abolished. I had a chat with him 3 weeks ago. He says there are 176 people on death row right now who have been sentenced. The last execution in Ghana was in 1993, 30 years ago. And since independence till date, 37 people have been executed, have been killed as a result of this law being on the books, including a head of state.
Yes.
And most of these things happen during military takeovers. And he was making the argument that take it off the books, because he may be dormant, but then if a government could come in and then activate it, like what happened in Burma, where for 42 years the death penalty was on the books, nobody executed anybody, and then these soldiers took over, and then they executed some people because the law was there.
You know, and I know Sheikh will be speaking very soon, but from where I'm coming from and the few information I'm gathering from some of our friends across the globe, I think it's making us lose our place as a people who believe in the human dignity. And the truth is that the barbaric thing that happened in the sub-region, it doesn't happen in Ghana. So I think let us take it out of our books. Let our politicians and our parliamentarians come together in a massive united front to let's get rid of it. And I think we can do it. There's so many ways we can get rid of this thing and let it be meaningful. And like I said, I don't want us to be academic about this. Let's break it down for the ordinary person to know that killing somebody at the end of the day is not the solution to the problem. And of course, I keep saying this thing, just the same way we think maybe your family member has been offended, so the person must die. When it's the flips and it's the other side, how will that go? I believe I really want to start a campaign from here today that will get into the bottom and make sure this thing is dealt with, and that we should not just be talkers, we should walk the talk in the total peace for Ghana, and then abolition for death penalty.
Sheikh?
Yeah, I mean, this whole idea, I think that in principle, beneath it, I think the respect for life and the sanctity of the human blood is something that we must uphold. But it has certain cultural and emotional dimensions. And because of that, like Reverend said, it needs to be broken down to get deep into the minds of the people. There must be a reason why this one was put, like you said, on our statutes. I just to illustrate, I was talking somewhere and I said, let's assume that, Reverend, an armed robber enters into your room, looks at you in the face, rapes your wife, rapes your daughter, and in your full glare, sets the gun on them, bam, bam, and shoots them. The trauma you go through. So I'm looking at the emotional side of it. How can you really work on the mind of the larger tract of the population that they can really be able to? So it's not an easy thing. I want to be practical about it. It's not an easy thing. Or a woman who, an armed robber or a murderer or whatever, enters into the room, looks at her face, hits her husband, shoots him, finishes in her full glare, rapes her daughter, shoots the daughter, and leaves the woman alone.
You're even going far. Look at the Bullion van attack recently, where the guy just looked at the police officer.
Yeah.
This is a man who had been freshly married, and shot him. Boom, like that.
Yeah.
Killed him.
So that aspect is not something that you can wish away just like that. Just like that. So that's the emotional side of it. The psychological side of it is what you mentioned. I mean, there is something we call vicarious learning, in psychology, and that is because of what has happened to somebody. His suffering is then certain signal, and in the Quran, the Quran is, the Sharia is a whole gamut of law that has to do with society in general. But underpinning it, for example, there are certain 5 germane principles, and one of them is the protection of life. Now, to illustrate this, a certain paradox is stated in the Quran, that in the law of retribution, that's the way he puts it, in the law of retribution you have life. You follow me? In the law of retribution you have life. In other words, in order for us to protect and to uphold the sanctity of life in the larger society, anyone who attempts to destroy life himself must be made to suffer the consequence, so that the life of the larger society will be protected. That's the way the Quran looks at it, in the larger sense of protecting life.
That it must be.
Yeah. So it's now establishing the law of retribution. But at the higher level, like Reverend said, and in fact, Sosu, he came to the National Chief Imam.
In fact, speaking of Susu, he's on the line right now.
Oh, okay.
Let's hear from him. So, Francis Xavier Susu is a member of parliament for Madina.
Tell him his father has disowned him.
Oh, he's on the line. He will hear you right now.
I have disowned him.
Mr. Susu, good morning. Welcome to GTV Breakfast.
Yeah, good morning, and a very good morning to your cherished viewers.
Yes, indeed.
And my good father. The father cannot disown his child. Your child is always going to be your child.
Okay, you are forgiven.
Amen, amen.
Mr. Susu, please tell us how far you've gotten with your attempt to have the law abolished, the capital punishment law repealed.
I think that in the first place, it's important for us to understand that the processes run up to all these proposals did not begin today. So it is not like an original idea of Susu or like one human rights activist who just really want to take the penalty away. As a country, the history of death penalty even in Ghana, when you look at it, is more of a colonial relic, because the law as they currently are were laws that were passed down to us by our colonial masters. And indeed, since independence till 1992, let me put it that way, the total number of people who were executed were 37. And if you check the record, the people who were killed were mainly killed during military regimes, including one head of state that was killed using the same law. Now, in 1992, when the Constitution came into force, the then administration said everyone who was on death row for more than 10 years was going to be commuted to life. But in 1993, 17th July 1993, death warrants were signed, and 12 other people were executed and killed by firing squad. And from that time till date, about 30 years down the line, no president has had, the courage to sign the death warrant of anybody convicted and sentenced to death. The practice, as we speak now, is that when a person is convicted and sentenced to death, he is kept in condemned cells for 10 years. After 10 years in condemned cells, the sentence is commuted to life sentence.
What's the difference between being in a condemned cell and then being in any other cell?
Well, when you get a chance to visit in someone's prison, condemned cells is one of the humanizing space you can find a human being. Yeah. From the lack of the right sanitation, toilet facilities, to the overcrowding in the condemned cells, because currently we have 170 in that condemned cells. The place is dark. They don't have access to light. They are isolated. They don't have access to oxygen. So in the condemned cells, by the time you actually spend between 5 to 6 years in condemned cells, mostly you may have eye problems, or you may have problems with your health. Your body is begin to develop all kinds of bodily diseases, and these are facts that are verifiable from prison. And so now the problem of keeping people in the condemned cells without killing them, because the essence of the condemned cells was to keep people temporarily, so that after keeping them for some few maybe weeks or days, the warrant must be signed so they will be executed. So the condemned cells lead you directly to the gallows. So if you have been to the prison before and you get to the condemned cells, even people on death row will tell you that any day that a prisoner or a prison officer comes and attempts to even go to the gallows and return, that whole day nobody eats. They can't take any food because on a daily basis they die. Like they just die because you put them in a condemned cells and you are not killing them. And they are there for like 10 years before they are committed to life. And those who are lifers have more space, they have more recreation, they have access to, life generally as a lifer is a bit different from when you are in condemned cells. And usually the current circumstances, after 10 years of being life, it is commuted again to a definite term. So technically, the default position of Ghana now is that if somebody were convicted today and sentenced to death by hanging, the person is kept in prison for about, let's say, 38 years. If the person is still alive and in good health, then the person may be released. So that is the current position. So the essence of the proposal is to align the laws to what we are currently practicing.
Right.
And also to avoid the situation where people then are kept in condemned cells. And my view is that when you do that, both the victim and family of victims, as well as the person you condemned, do not have closure. They do not have closure because if your law says that you must go kill the person by hanging, and the judge says go kill the person by hanging, and yet the person is not killed by hanging, if I were the victim, you wake up every morning and you still don't have closure. But you know that if the law says that the ultimate penalty is life imprisonment, once that ultimate penalty is handed, there is closure for both the offending party and the people who have been offended.
Right. So thank you for that background and letting us know exactly where we are as far as this law is concerned. Now, where are you in Parliament as far as the progress of this particular piece of legislation?
Well, in Parliament, I just moved the motion for the second reading of the law. And usually when you move the motion, the report of the committee, of the Constitutional Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee that was charged with duty to review the proposal is now laid. And so currently the report has been laid, and the details of the report is a public knowledge. And in fact, the report confirms this position that I have just espoused. And not only that, the report also confirms that actually Ghana has been on the journey to abolish the death penalty, except that we have not yet gotten to the end of that journey. In fact, in 2010, the then administration led by President Mills commissioned a constitutional review commission. And that commission did an extensive work, went to the length and breadth of the country, and went to every community within this country. And then they brought proposals for constitutional amendment. One of the proposals they brought for constitutional amendment is the abolition of the death penalty.
Right.
And they said that they made that proposal because they said that when they went around and picked the views of people, many people believe that the death penalty has outlived its usefulness, and that we cannot gamble the sanctity of life on some judicial uncertainties, because the possibility that you can kill a person who shouldn't have been killed was very high. And the report also confirmed that the government then issued a government-wide paper, which is the state policy position. And the white paper accepted the recommendations of the Constitutional Review Commission.
Right.
Now, the then administration could not lay the amendment instrument before it lost power. Then this new administration came up. And so this process is like a continuous process to end something that, as Ghanaians, we have already yearned for. And currently the debate is ongoing. We are yet to finish the debate. Then the speaker will put a question.
Are you running out of time?
Well, I don't think we are running out of time. I just think that what must be done well and must be done now. And Kafui, I say this because sometimes I shiver. Recently, people say that, oh, but the law is there, we don't use it. Why fix it when it's not broken? Look, I already said that most of the time, these laws are invoked sometimes against political enemies, people that are alleged of being treacherous, and then sometimes even people at the media space who are actively engaged in campaign for either some democracy in places where they are very, very repressive. And recently, just last year, there is a country in Asia called Myanmar. Myanmar has the law on its statute book, and it was described internationally as an abolitionist de facto, because it never used the law for 42 years. But as soon as there was a military takeover last year, 4 leaders were immediately executed. Most of these leaders who were executed were either activists, people who were campaigning for good governance and things like that, and people who were seen as political enemies. And as I speak to you, about 100 others are being convicted in secret trial and convicted to death, and they are all on death row yet to be executed in Myanmar. And so every day time ticks, and nobody knows when. We don't pray that anything bad will happen in Ghana. We don't pray that any military man will take over Ghana. But we are human beings. You cannot take away the fallibilities of our society, and you cannot take away the possibilities of wrongdoing in our society. And I think that is the reason why even the Ghana Armed Forces have thrown its weight behind the bills for them to pass. Prison service has thrown its weight. Police service. When you look at the judges from the Supreme Court, from the Chief Justice to all the Supreme Court nominees recently who appeared before our appointment committee, everyone has said that eye for an eye is not where to go because.
All right. It was just about wrapping up, but I think we've got the meat of the conversation. So that's Mr. Francis Xavier Susu. He's a member of parliament for Madina constituency in the Greater Accra region, and he is the sponsor of this private members bill, aiming to get the death penalty removed from our statute books. Thank you so much, Mr. Susu, for your contributions. We want to get on the line and speak with a prisons officer who want to remain anonymous. Yes, for obvious reasons, to speak about this particular issue. Good morning. Okay, so we're trying to get him back and then we'll speak to him. But Sheikh, can you just make a quick point before I bring on the officer?
I think the point that we have made here is very, very important. Like, for example, if by implementing the death penalty, for example, you do so on grounds of mistake. Because once you are taking life, if it later comes up, revealed, that you killed the wrong person for the wrong reason, is it possible to bring the person back to life?
No, it's not. It's too final.
It's too final. I think that is the aspect which is very worrying about it. Secondly, even from the Islamic point of view, you can lift the issue also up to the level of mercy and compassion. And I know of a story where during the Prophet's time, he was reluctant. I mean, his reluctance in execution was so glaring. A woman who came to confess to him that she had fornicated.
But he was reluctant in
Yeah, okay. And anytime she appeared, he turned his eye away from her. And then she would come to the direction and then still call on him that this is what she has done, he must apply the law.
Okay.
Then he will turn away.
All right.
Then he told her, you are pregnant. Go and give birth. She comes back with a child, still insisting, and said, you are with a child. Go back, go and breastfeed.
Okay.
And for me, that reluctance and the mercy that was being shown means that if she hadn't come back and she repented, nobody was going to chase her. And it's something that I'm reflecting on.
Indeed.
And there's no universal Islamic position on this matter.
Okay.
That's why when they came to the Chief Imam, Chief Imam, yes, he listened to it. I said he wants to have a certain unanimous view. He wants to see what views there are, so that because Islam is a universal religion, you don't give a certain verdict that goes contrary to what is the consensus.
So you want to have the universality. Okay.
But going to the merciful side of it and forgiveness, and I think that is something worth considering.
Awesome. Yeah. Let's get on the line right now and speak with the prisons officer, who I will call Mr. X for this conversation. Mr. X, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Kafi. How are you doing?
I am very well. What is it like working with people on death row?
It is interesting working with people on death row, especially when you get to the condemned prisons and the way it is congested. It is very, very congested.
How many people are in a cell? When you say congested, please describe how big the cell is and how many people are in that particular cell.
Like Mr. Xavier alluded to, when you get to the Nsawam prison, within the Nsawam prison.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. You said within the Nsawam prison, what happens?
Within the Nsawam prison is the condemned prison from within.
Yeah.
Now, it is a prison just like any other prison you see with various cells and inmates in them. For example, I am not going to give you the detailed statistics because I don't have the attitudes on point now because the prison statistic keeps changing in the time.
Sure.
If the prison is supposed to take, say, 100 condemned prisoners and the people are more, definitely the place can be described as a congested place. However, my particular take on this one is to disagree a little bit with lawyer Sosu when he said the place is dehumanizing, the place is like there is no light in the condemned prison. That is not exactly the situation. The prison authorities will not, in fact, bringing somebody to prison in itself is punishment enough. So the prisoner will not be subjected to any extra punishment because he has come to prison. If there are any instances where he's alluded to that the place is congested, the place is dehumanizing, there is no life, no, it is not because they are condemned prisoners, that is why that particular assertion is being made. No. The prison authorities will not for even make a mistake and make their life terrible because they are condemned prisoners. Even being condemned alone is terrible enough for the prisoner.
Sure.
The conditions in the prison are prevalent. We all know the lack of resources that prisoners, the prison authorities are faced with.
Okay.
Look at the resources we have. Even look at the feeding rate of inmates.
Right.
If you watch the Public Accounts Committee in recent times when the Director General appeared, a question was posed as to how much is being used to feed a prisoner per day. 1 cedi 80 pesos.
180.
We cannot buy 1 cedi 80 pesos. Is used to be a prisoner is to be fed 1 cedi 80 pesos a day, which cannot buy even a bottle of water that we eat and drink on.
Right.
But the prison officers are supposed to battle with this challenge and make sure the prisoners' lives are kept.
Let's talk. So, what do you make of this conversation around the abolition of the death penalty? As a prison officer, what do you think?
As a prison officer, it will be welcoming because it will be another way of decongesting the prisons. Because if the person stays for a very long time, that is what is making the place congested. So if this law is abolished, it will help us to decongest the prison and give them better conditions of life.
Okay.
However, on a personal view, I listen to the Sheikh and I listen to the Reverend. The Sheikh and the Reverend both want the capital punishment to be abolished. However, as it is currently, it's even somehow abolished because we don't kill them.
But you do admit that a president can sign, because it's in the law. The president can come in. The president can decide one day to sign it, and then somebody will be executed. Isn't that a possibility?
I agree with that because the law has not been abolished. Any president at all can sign, and the people will be killed the moment they are signed.
Yeah.
However, let's also look at it from this way. Please, if you permit it, I'll give you a scenario. When I was working somewhere in the northern part of the country, I witnessed a situation where a pregnant lady was killed, butchered, and her body cut into pieces and put into a toilet and flushed. When this issue came up, I was part of the team that went to retrieve the body from the toilet. We removed the meat into pieces. Now, we're talking about, the Reverend is talking about, the Reverend, the Sheikh are both talking about the preservation of life. If such a person is caught, the abolishment of this capital punishment, it means the person cannot be punished at the level. But the question I want to ask, as an ordinary person, not a prison officer, but as an ordinary person, is that the person being killed, does he also have a human right? And who preserves the person's human rights? The emotional trauma the husband will go through as a result of this. All these things is a long time discussion we have to put in place and conscientize people, even at all if we can abolish this capital punishment. But however, that is my view as an individual, but not as a prison officer. As a prison officer, I will support the law because it will help us decongest the prison and be able to take care of the fewer numbers that we need.
All right. Please give me a sense of what is the normal day like for somebody who is in the condemned cells? I mean, what time do they wake up? What do they do? When do they sleep? Things like that. What happens?
They wake up as normal as any other prisoner. By 6 o'clock early morning, we open them. They wash down, they brush their teeth, and their morning ration is served them. They wake up as normal. But because of their status, we do not mix them with the ordinary prisoner. We separate them. Otherwise, life is normal for every prisoner in prison.
What time do they go to sleep?
What time do they go to bed?
Yes.
Yes, they go to bed after 6 o'clock. The final lockup is at 6 o'clock. We sound the bell for final lockup at 6 o'clock. All prisoners prepare. Those who haven't bathed, we make sure they bath. By 7 o'clock, everybody is finished and they go to bed.
How do they spend?
Every prisoner.
Okay, by 7 o'clock they are locked up. What do they do between waking up and lockup? How do they spend their time in the condemned cells?
In the condemned cell, ordinary, normal life activities. Those who are, some of them are doing trade. A good number of them are doing trade. Those who have skill, who put the skill into use whilst they are in prison. Some of them with baskets. Those who have skill is being used within the prison. In fact, they help their colleagues within the prison to even learn trade because there is hope for life at the end of the tunnel. So whatever skill they have is just ordinary life that they live there. They don't go through any extraordinary punishment because they are condemned. No. And we don't intentionally put off light at their cells. No. How will they be able to see? They go to school. So they go to school. Those who want to go to school, go to school. You know, in some prison, we do up to even degree and master's level in the prisons. Those who have the skill to go to school, will be allowed to go to school. The opportunity is open for all of them.
For those who are in the condemned, for those who are in the condemned cells, are they given rights to visitation? How many times are they allowed visitors?
Yeah, they are allowed for visitation. Every fortnight, every prisoner has the right to be visited.
Do you have
once in every fortnight, just as any other prisoner, not the condemned prisoners are not excluded from all these rights.
All right. What kind of offenses and crimes bring people to the condemned cell?
Usually, it's murder cases.
Okay. Do you have women on death row in the condemned cell?
Yes, we have women on death row. There are women on death row on a separate prison, the female prison. There are women on death row there.
If the president were to sign the death warrant today for somebody, who would do the execution?
For now, the execution is not even practiced.
So you don't have a
hangman? We have the execution place where if it is executed by firing squad, they take them to the firing squad for the execution. If it is to be executed by hanging, the silos are there for the hanging.
Oh, you have silos?
Now they are defunct and they are not functioning because, in fact, practically, the execution is not happening again. But like you said, if the law is still in our books, one time somebody can visit.
So that means that there's no position for a hangman in Nsawam?
Right now, no. As it is now, no.
But if they were to say firing squad, you would have people who are ready to shoot?
Of course, it is our job. We are trained to do that.
Okay. Is it prison officers who do the execution by firing squad?
By firing squad, prison officers do the execution. The reverends will be there. Let me say the clergy will be there. The person's speech. All of them will be there for him to say his last word before the execution is done. He's given opportunity to be remorseful and then to repent and to tell his God what he has done is wrong and asking for forgiveness from his God before he's been executed.
Have you ever witnessed an execution?
No, I've not witnessed an execution per person.
But have any of your colleagues you work with ever witnessed one?
Yes, there are the old ones, but currently even those who witness execution, almost all of them have gone on retirement.
Because
this thing has been out for very long time.
30 years. I'm just curious, probably my final question. So if it's a firing squad, do all of the people have bullets in their guns, or it's only one that is loaded?
Of course, every gun is loaded, but the one who will fire may not even know he's the one who fired.
Why is that so?
That is deep anyway. I may not be able to tell you why it is so for now.
Okay, Mr. X, we will leave it here. Thank you so much for giving us an insight into what goes on in the condemned cell.
I am very, very grateful for the opportunity because this is not something you have phoned in to do. But I just wanted the public to understand that prisoners are not subjected to any extra punishment because they have come to prison.
Right. Before I let you go,
even coming to prison in its own is punishment enough. No condemned prisoner is subject to any dehumanizing state because he's a condemned prisoner. That assertion is wrong.
It's wrong.
However, we have resource challenges.
Okay.
That if we are supported by philanthropists, NGOs, the clergy, for example, the churches and the mosques can support us to make sure that the conditions we see as dehumanizing in prisons are reduced.
All right.
So that we take off the burden from that kind of angle. However, no prisoner is dehumanized because he has come.
Okay, before you go, last question. Do they watch GTV breakfast in the condemned cells?
Yeah, they watch TV, they have radios, they watch GTV. GTV is a platform that goes everywhere. We have a set for them in their various, we don't have it in their various cells, but we have it for them at a common platform where they come to sit down and watch television. In fact, they can switch to any channel they want. Those opportunities are always there for them. They have reading materials, books, they have libraries, they visit. Though they are not well resourced, of which we need your support to be able to resource those things for them to have a meaningful life while in prison.
Mr. X, take this number down and make sure that the TV license is paid because they are watching the TV through the TV license. Through our
yes, of course. I always say about TV line.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, I do.
Star 447
Thank you very
star
much.
333 hash. Mr. X is a serving prison officer who remained anonymous for obvious reasons by giving us an insight on what happens inside. So thank you very much for sparking this conversation, Reverend Tete.
So now, bottom line, this requires a collective responsibility. We must handle this in a very massive united front. I'm a little bit emotional about it, but I think that for some reason we've been a little bit sluggish about it. It's something that we left dormant because nobody has really been killed in 30 years. But who knows when somebody takes the pen and signs? Because whether we like it or not, even from Bible days or Quran days till today, there's still been criminals and there will always be criminals. And somebody can be silly enough to veer. And if you don't take care, the wrong person will be murdered, killed in the name of capital punishment. So let us reconsider. And I want to appeal passionately to our parliamentarians. Please, let us all come together to get this thing done, to also put Ghana on the map as a nation that believes in human rights.
Okay, you're watching hashtag GTV Breakfast. Reverend Dr. Lawrence Tete, Sheikh Aremia Shaibu on the line. We had Mr. Francis Xavier Sosu, MP for Medina, and Mr. X, a serving prisons officer, giving us some insights.
Somebody just asked something there.
Yes, the questions will come. I don't know whether we... let me read the question. So, Chief Imam's rep, which is you, Sheikh, can you please tell us the position of the death penalty in Saudi Arabia? Can the Reverend Dr. Tete also tell us about the law of the death penalty in the Vatican?
Yes.
From Alhaji Dawood and Medina Estate.
Yes.
Vatican and
Vatican is really against death penalty.
Okay.
John Francis, Pope John Paul, all of them, and Pope Francis, they all have their stand. And of course, majority of Vatican, the Catholic Church, are against death penalty.
Sheikh, what's the position in Saudi?
Yeah, in Saudi, the death penalty applies, and that is why, I cannot say even perfectly, but such cases of murder, like drug abuse, like rape, I mean, you don't go there and find.
You are gone.
Yeah, because I mean the deterrence is so strong over there. Yeah, so you don't hear some of those things, happening over there.
All right, we'll take more messages after we go out of the studio to speak with our man, Daryl Alan Tego, Sheikh's very good friend, who has a report keeping an eye on very, very pertinent issues. Alan, good morning. Where are you reporting from, and what should we be keeping an eye on?
Hi, good morning, Kafui, and thank you very much for coming to us. We're coming to you from the Ramsar site in Sacramento. May I seize the opportunity to also say a special good morning to the Reverend and the Sheikh. And heart goes out to the prison officer you spoke to, who made such a fantastic submission on our human rights position when it comes to penalty. Kaf, we're bringing you the Ramsar site near Tema, the new shipyard. It is also the side where we're coming to you from is not where the demolition exercise took place the last time. This is the other side of it, and it is directly across the sea or opposite the beach from where you're traveling from Accra to the Tema harbor. The benefit of a Ramsar site, CAF, is especially to maintain the ecosystem as well as afford migratory birds who travel every year around here and then move on. Unfortunately, for this particular site, the site close to the Sakumono village is presenting a certain opportunity for a landfill site in order to reclaim the site. And so my camera is going to run towards the landfill site, where you will have pictures or shots of that. Even though it started really very small, a place for just the small Sakumono village community to offload their refuse, it has now become a fully fledged landfill site under the Tema West constituency. And what you have currently is the growing size of this landfill site. And let us also be mindful of our position when it comes to the global sustainable development goals, under which number 3 provides for good health and well-being. CAF, the progress of this landfill site to the Sakumono village, 2 different schools,
encroachment on these particular sites, and he's just drawing our attention to it. He will come through that report, probably record it, and then we'll get to watch it in full later on. You're watching GTV Breakfast, 8:35. WhatsApp number is 055-556-1034. Kudos for the good work, BFS team. Our morning is never complete without watching you guys. From AJ inside Ablekuma. And Hajia Zinabu is a faithful viewer of this show. She's a wonderful sportswoman, golf, tennis, hockey, and she loves this show. Yeah. And my God shall supply all your needs according to his riches in glory. Philippians 4:19 from Reverend Butchie. Thank you very much, Reverend Butchie. GTV Breakfast. How I've grown fond of GTV. Good programs, fantastic people. Still the authentic and trusted voice of Ghana, Kojo from the training school. We enjoy it when you give us the kudos. Wishing Dr. Muminu Zakaria Fusenu congratulations on appointment as the Vice Principal of Bagabaga College of Education, Tamale. I always love that name, Bagabaga. Our way of handling the accused is one of the reasons why I pray for God's protection, says Mike. Let's see if we can get back to to Alan, who we are trying to re-establish contact with. Alan, can you hear me? Yes, Alan is back. Sakumono, Ramza site. This is serious degradation, man. Wow. Yeah, it's the rubbish is overtaking the Ramza site. That is just baller, for want of a better word. Baller song.
Was that as far as Ghana is concerned, if you're born today, you're expected to live for 60.11 months, 60 years and 11 months. Now, CAF, the site here presents, among other things, unfortunate health impact, especially for the children who study in this cluster of schools. That the stench and the filth, as well as the smoke from the landfill site, all ends up on these kids while they are in school. And so if we're talking about good health and well-being, clean air, the quality of air out here is not the best of air, especially for children who should be studying in a very clean environment. It appears, though, CAF, that nobody has made any effort whatsoever to stop this place being used as a landfill site. It is ever growing by the day, and slowly it is encroaching on the landfill site. So you see the migrating birds, the Ramza, and are feeding off the landfill site. It is not the best for human as well as animal life, and that in itself will amount to us failing on our SDG goal number, which is health and well-being. The landfill site is ever growing and is encroaching or taking over the Ramza site, which is also having a negative effect on children who are studying in such proximity from the landfill site. This so far, CAF, has been the situation here at the Ramza site near the Tema Harbour or the MPS shipyard, and seem not to have any closure.
All I can say is wow. So we drive from Nungwa to Tema using the beach road. We enjoy the view of the beach. But on the left, so I saw goats, cows, and vultures having a conference. they're having talks on rubbish close to a school. And this is a natural site for birds, migratory birds. You saw the birds? Yeah. So the birds are now getting unwanted. Why? As you say, over you, Rev.
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do, and this thing saddens my heart because
What?
it looks as if we take our health for granted, and this is what is spreading diseases all over the community.
Wow. So this is a landfill site on a Ramsar site. Oh.
You see, there is something that we all are probably oblivious about.
What?
And that is how we all contribute to the balance of the ecosystem.
Wow.
The environment in which we are, we interdepend. So there are things that the moment you do one thing, it leads to another. But perhaps we are not very conscious of that. And so even when we are dumping refuse, for example, I'm not so conscious about how the way I expose my refuse, my waste, how it affects Reverend.
Yeah.
I see that, oh, okay, I'm just dropping them in front of his house. I'm connected in terms of mindset about how that thing affects him. And we do so, and look, even, as we practice religion, even love thy neighbor as thyself, all those things are not things that we can factor into even how we collectively ensure the protection and sanitation of our environment. And that's exactly what's happening.
Remember, you look just shocked.
I'm pained. To think that I'm a father. And as a father, you certainly don't want your child to go into a school in that environment. But even forget about the children, the teachers who teach.
Oh, yes.
What will motivate them to go back to the classroom? Why would they not be seeking for transfer? Why would they not be coming at the time sluggishly? I think there's so much we have to do. And certain people must wake up to their responsibilities. We have people that are supposed to be responsible
for a Ramsar site.
Yeah.
And somebody's head must roll in situations like this so that the nonsense is stopped. This is some of the things I talked about. Nonsense. This
in your
nonsense
campaign
must stop.
Definitely. A couple of messages before we go. 0555561034. We have enlightening conversations on literacy, education, reading in a short while. I see Anyele just getting ready. Also shocked by the pictures from the Ramsar site, but going to give us something inspiring. Good morning, Kafui. The dance of a madman in the market is funny if he is not a member of your family. African proverb. You people are doing well. Vincent Azuma, a Shaiman, municipal. Talking about Zuma Nelson's birthday was yesterday.
Yesterday,
One of our greatest exports.
Yes.
It's just sad. Calf, Sakumono. Oh, it's amazing. Thank God for drones. The drone has given us the picture. We wouldn't have seen it. Yeah. So Jerry Decker, our drone pilot, thanks. Alan, so thanks as well. Come on, please, Kaf, with those on death row, how many years have they saved now? Is any of them found innocent? Questions on the death row conversation that we had. Ken Tichamante, that's Ghana for you. I'm sure he's looking at the Sakumono pictures. Wishing you happy birthday to you, Gordon Yafu, Ghana Police Service of Tamale, Age with Grace from Miss Renyame. Thanks, happy birthday to Evelyn and OBK of GTV Breakfast Show as well. The abolition of death penalty is something we must all consider as a nation. Hi, Kafui, for your information. Ghanaians are very difficult to handle. Death penalty must be applied because Ghanaians who found themselves being with the law against the law should be punished properly. Some of us are hardened criminals. Therefore, if an example is set for people who kill to save the punishment, then he is for capital punishment.
I dare to differ that in every country there are criminals. There are criminals in America, criminals in the UK, criminals in Australia. But let us find a common denominator, a place where we can be able to give room at least not to take people's life away.
Yes, indeed. Sakumono is trending today, and those videos will be on our Facebook page, GTV Ghana, because it's just mind-boggling. The rubbish is crazy. Good, Calf. I've watched only GTV for 6 months now. Keep up the good work. Dr. Anointing, thank you very much. Doc, have you paid your TV license? It's hashtag 447. So it's *447 *333#. Keep watching GTV Breakfast. Thank you so much. Sakumono, I'm sure. Ghana is sick. Yeah. Please bring your cameras to Glepe You will be amazed. The whole river is filled with waste and has taken over the community. And they send a message again, please bring your camera to Glepe. You'll be amazed. The whole river filled with waste and has taken over the community. If you saw the messages going up automatically, it's our own little bit of magic that we have here, okay? Yes. I can just imagine waking up in a theater with my leg amputated, and then the doctor comes in to say, I'm sorry, my brother, we just got your file, and realized it was your hand we were supposed to take off. Compare this scenario to waking up to the government telling you that we are sorry for executing your husband. We just found out that he's innocent. It will just be breathtaking. Hashtag GTV breakfast. Hashtag pay your TV license. Thank you. Keep them coming in 055-556-1034. Correct score. Well, he's going on a whole political tip there. But today we are talking about death penalty and Sakumono. So thank you for the message. And follow what the conversation is, please. We'll be really happy. So those are our messages for today's show. I'm just going to sit back and then wrap up this conversation. Thank you so much. In case you're wondering what the headlines were in the papers, well, let's just give it to you. Birth and death database, 24 million records are not digitized. My younger brother, Victor Koshi Day Jr., is part of them. He went to birth and death, and they say he should bring his birth certificate. He said, listen, I'm almost 43 years old. Don't you have records of my... They said they don't have. Go and bring your birth cert. Now, the woman who brought him into the world has gone on to be with the Lord 10 years ago. The man who collaborated with her to bring them into the world, he too has gone. So how do you expect a guy to go and get his birth and death, his birth records? They were stressing him out, and he called and ranted, and I also ranted back, and I said, don't mind them. They should do the work. So please, digitize the records, birth and deaths. Don't stress us. Supreme Court dismisses injunction against anti-LGBTQI+ bill. Self-testing for HIV begins nationwide. Be alert against terrorists, says NCCE, which is the National Commission for Civil Education. And motor insurance database records 4.4 million vehicles in Ghana. 4.4 million. Wow. It's like 1 in 6. It's a sixth of the population is just cars. And the public kicks against the death penalty. That's our big conversation that we'll be having here today. Ghanaian Times, 850,000 Ghanaians impoverished due to rising food prices. Court of Appeal rejects Asin North MP stay of proceedings. And CEOs and the industry deliberate over rebranding of Africa. I have my thoughts on that. Africa cannot be rebranded like Jacob's cream crackers or tomato ketchup. We just have to do the right things. And that will be the rebranding. Business Finder, economy to recover by 2025. Growth will slow down 2023 and 2024, says World Bank. Charlie. Africa loses $89 billion annually from illicit financial flows. That's a nice fancy word for corruption and bribery. Okay? When they say illicit financial flows, it just means somebody is taking an envelope that you shouldn't be taking. All right? Illicit financial flows. I know you don't like jargon.
Somebody is taking it. No. Whether we like it or not, our businessmen, our politicians, and certain people are still siphoning money from our community. They are siphoning and are taking it outside, offshore. Siphon. I've just come from Isle of Man, and the sad thing is that there are a lot of people today who are banking out of Man, and we need the dollar here, and the hard currency, the durable dollar.
Hard-earned durable dollars.
Is ending somewhere. And so we must be very careful that we let it stay in Ghana so that our economy can be sustained. And the reason why our city is becoming weaker every day is because of some of those things we do. So by the time we realize we are importing things that normally could be created here, we have a responsibility in that too.
Okay. Sheikh, before we go, tomorrow, 21st July, would have been former President Mills' birthday. Yes, 21st. And what thoughts do you have? What memories you have of the good professor?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he gave a certain true reflection of what he believed in. I remember when he was in one of his campaigns, he said, "Want to Abama Obia Onya Misro." Vote for somebody who is God-fearing. I have observed Professor Atta Mills, and I think that when he was in power, he reflected that conviction. Mills was not the politician of the modern kind that we know. It appears to me that he came as a true Ghanaian who came to serve. He wanted to use politics as a means to really correct things, bring about true and meaningful development. I see him somebody who brought certain religious ethics, you know, in his kind of politics, and I think that is something that shortly he was short-lived in power.
Yeah.
Lately, people know that he had done so much, and after his death, the picture was all over the place. You know, things that he has done all over the place. Secondly, I remember him very, very, very much for one thing. Not too long after he has won power, when he called the clergy, the Christian clergy, the Muslim scholars at PDRC. And what was his concern? He was concerned about the politics of insults. That I will never forget. He has the power, he can punish, he can do anything. But then he thought there was the need for us to sanitize our kind of politics.
All right.
And so he was worried about it. If any politician is there today and he can learn from that, that's why I'm saying that don't use insult to catapult yourself into power, because you would have set the wrong precedents. It will become our subculture.
So those are your thoughts of him. A man, ethical leadership, and firmly against the politics of insults.
Yes.
Rev.
I had a very good relationship with President Atta Mills. He spent time in my house. He was a man of prayer. And for those of us in ministry, remember he was a Methodist, so he loved my ministry. But first and foremost, my heart goes out to Madame Nadu Mills. She's been very, very quiet. Of course, she's not a very loud person. She was a teacher at Ebri Girls, and she's not a very loud person. But I pray that God keeps her souls and strength. President Atta Mills was not just a politician. He was a statesman who did not want to be politically correct. He stood his ground, spoke his mind, and was very genuine. And I pray that we have many of Atta Mills who will not just try to be politically correct to impress either the West or our people, but will speak it as God will want to have it. And I pray that his soul rest in peace. I was happy to have had a good relationship with him, and I cherish those moments. And so my prayer goes to Kofi, my prayer goes to the entire family, and they have a saying in their house for me, they call me Manchebino, because I'm supposed to be one of his favorites. So may the Lord bless me. Somebody who comes to spend time in my house when he was visiting president, and I don't take those things for granted at all. May Professor Fifi Atta Mills' soul rest in perfect peace.
Yeah, he would have been 79 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gentlemen.
And besides that, he went to LSE, so he's a mentor.
Oh, yes. Your alma mater. Definitely so.
So when we meet, he and Dr. Joe Abbey, anytime we meet Dr. Joe Abbey and Dr. Omabo, we talk about LSE.
Okay.
And then the husband of the former Chief Justice, Dr. Lutrot Wood. Dr. Wood.
Okay.
Georgina Wood's husband.
Oh, okay.
So when we meet, we talk about LS, and those are the people I want to hang around with.
All right. Gentlemen, it's been fun hanging around with you. A couple of quick headlines. So did you know that Ghana has a space policy? Ghana is going to space, man. Or we are just going to explore space. If not go there, at least explore it. So we have a space policy. Go to graphic.com and you will see details of cabinet having approved a national space policy that will provide a framework for the use of space science and technology for sustainable development. So that's a headline there for us today, the 20th of July, 2023. The Vice President has denied allegations of Islamic funding by a Nigerian group. That's a big headline as well. Professor Kwesi Osei says we should hasten slowly on large cultivation of ganja in Ghana. So it says hasten slowly on that.
Yeah.
So those are the headlines. Somebody was asking whether these concoctions are available for sale. Please, these concoctions are nothing to do with what should be entering your stomach, okay? This is water from the Pra, River Pra, okay? This was fetched last year, September. This was fetched this year in April. This is polluted water, galamsey, gold mining. Illegal gold mining, it's polluted. So please do not even think that this is some moringa juice or some pineapple concoction. These are this is what we've done to, just like what we've done to Sakomono, Ramsar site. This is what we are doing to our water. It's just a cautionary tale for all of you. Okay.
Am I allowed to wish a condolence to my chief of staff,
Okay.
Reverend Emmanuel Nela Amatefio, lost his wife earlier this morning in America.
Oh.
So Amatefio is in America, and
so
so far Amatefio died at 66. And so may have soul rest in peace.
Amen.
Amatefio, our hearts are with you. You're a good man.
Yes, on behalf of all of us here at the Breakfast Show, we'd like to say our condolences. Yeah, I've met him personally as well. Thank you so much. Sheikh, regards to the old man.
Yep. I'll carry your regards to the old man.
Yes.
He's doing very well, very healthy.
Tell him, Reverend, I owe him a visit.
Yes, by all means. We'll facilitate that.
When do we do that? As soon as
Anytime
possible.
As soon as possible, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just go, and he'll be glad to see you.
Yeah, but
And the good thing that he speaks Gan, but
speaks Gan.
he spoke man doesn't speak Gan.
so drop me the only gun you know.
Una bonito.
Yeah, that's a JJ Rawlings kind of gun, right? Thank you so much, gentlemen. It's always a pleasure. Up next is a conversation on Carnival. It's the Carnival campaign. It has to do with books and words, things I love. And then, of course, Kini Ice. Kini Ice will be here to warm up the other side of the studio. This is GTV Breakfast. We give you a lot every day, like